Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Lappin. I am Joseph Lappin. Hope you guys having a great Friday afternoon. Well, Friday just past noon. Welcome into Real. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. And shout out to all the new subscribers. Hype this video as well to new uh, tool, and you can help promote this video more in the algorithms of YouTube. Put out now down in the comment section. New feature is the word I was looking for. But yeah, so please hype the video as well. But welcome into the Real and a shocking. I'm still shocked. It happened, folks. I told you guys beginning of this week, somebody who's very close to LeBron's camp said that, text me Monday and said it's going to be coming out in the coming days this week. I told you guys that. Now, to be honest with you guys, this whole process, LeBron kept everything very, very close to the vest, more than he ever has. Usually in the past three decisions, it would get leaked out ahead of times from people behind the scenes. You would have an idea where he's going. LeBron did a hell of a job keeping this sealed. My guest today and myself, we tried talking. We talked to some people, both of us, that we usually would know, but they didn't really know. I think a lot of people just kind of assumed he would consider coming home to Cleveland, but LeBron is going to Philadelphia. That's right. Absolute stunner. I did not expect this. I get the basketball fit of it. And we talked about that on the show. I said I get it. They need a playmaking forward. That's what LeBron is. My biggest thing with Philly, the turnoff for me has always been I just didn't think LeBron would actually go live in Philadelphia. Nothing against the city of Philadelphia at all. I'm sure it's a lovely city, great city, city of brotherly love. Great fans, obviously. But I didn't think LeBron would actually leave LA, where he's building a $50 million compound and then go live somewhere else other than home. I just didn't see that. And we read the articles about how his wife really didn't seem like she really was fond of the Miami experience when they left there. And I never really thought Miami was a serious contender because of the relationship with Pat Riley. That's why I told you guys I didn't think they were a real threat. But Philly was a team, though, that you didn't hear a whole lot about them in the last week. They kind of were just lingering around. But, to me, I didn't think a guy would, again, going from LA, would leave and go live in Philadelphia. But my initial reaction, I'm not going to speak too long, get my guest up here, but a special guest today. But I think back to what Rich Paul said on the podcast when he brought out the whiteboard, when he said, if the Knicks didn't win a championship, he would have definitely went there. And I think LeBron's goal has always been to play. I think he's always had intrigue of playing in an East Coast market. I think that since he was in high school, and Jersey's been on, and I got to give shout out to Jersey. He's the one that was kind of saying Philly all along. So, but Jersey obviously followed LeBron since he was in high school, went to all his games, had season tickets to all the St. V games in high school, followed him very closely. Even myself as a little kid was at some of those games. But LeBron always had an admiration for New York, the Knicks, and back then in high school they would have kind of hinted like hey, one day he would love to play in the East, like New York. Obviously, with the Knicks was always a team everybody assumed, but I think there's always been a fascination to play on the East Coast, and I think with LeBron, I think he views this opportunity, and he put a statement out right after they announced this, and I got some other stuff we'll get to, but put this full screen. He says, I thought I was done when the season ended. I wasn't ready to announce it, and I knew I needed some time to really decide, but I was pretty sure I played my last game. I was honest at that last press conference when I said I needed to look at myself and decide if I still love, continued, this game. I still truly love this game, and I have more to give. The last few weeks have been really special. I've never been able to have no clue what to do and to take real time to just think. I've had an incredible few months with all the people I love, trying to figure it all out. And so that second part of that statement to me says a lot because, again, the past three times LeBron's gone somewhere, to Miami, back to Cleveland, to LA, it was in motion ahead of time. I think this is the first time where LeBron, he had an idea ahead of time throughout this past year. Because, again, last summer, like I said, the Lakers told him they weren't bringing him back after the season. They were going to pay out the remainder of his deal, and that was it. He knew that. So I think he's been looking ahead all year, kind of keeping an eye on, like, hey, I could go here, I could go there. But I think this really is the first time LeBron came into a free agency and was like, I really don't have a set decision yet. And that's the first time in his career. So it makes sense why it dragged out as long as it did. 24 days, whatever it was. So, but it continued. This is my last decision. I'm not going for money. I'm not going for family. What I'm really playing for at this point, I want to sacrifice. I still want to work. I still want to grind. I still want to compete, to win and to have a chance at the feeling of winning. And it goes on to continue another championship. I believe I can make the Philadelphia 76ers a championship team, and I'm so excited to energize a new fan base and start this incredible journey one last time. Thank you, LA. Miami, I'll forever love, and Northeast Ohio will always be home. And so I go back to this part right here, though, where it says he wasn't going for money, he wasn't going for family. And I think back to that podcast that I played, his podcast he did after the season, where he talked about what wins in the NBA nowadays, depth, all right, and youth. And he said, and remember I told you what he said that was key in that was the part where he talked about explaining to his family, hey, whether dad's home or he's not home. And I said that to me opened the door where he could go play somewhere else, like maybe this family stays in LA and he comes back to Cleveland or Golden State or now we know Philly. And so but he said the ultimatum was he'll consider what the family has to say, but ultimately it was down to what he wants. Ultimately, it's his last decision. And clearly, this is not about money. I mean, he signed a 2-year, $8 million deal. That's the biggest bargain in NBA history. So, for an NBA franchise, getting LeBron James for $8 million. But this is clearly LeBron feels like this is his best chance to win. I know Dave McMenamin put out a statement a little bit ago. It says LeBron James' choice hinged on the pursuit of a championship, and he believes the Sixers gave him the best chance at that, per Dave McMenamin. And so there was definitely some moving pieces though behind this. I think this is the first time LeBron didn't know where he was going, but Rich Paul talked about it on the podcast, what they did with the whiteboard as well, that Mike Gansey was a big factor. Mike Gansey, obviously from Homestead Falls, from Northeast Ohio, was the Cavs GM last year, went and signed became president of the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm sure back then there was an idea that LeBron could go to Philly, if I had to guess. And I'm sure Gansey got ahead of it, got that job, and they have a close relationship. LeBron's relationship with Tyrese Maxey, Jameer Nelson's also in the front office there in Philly, who he likes. So there's a lot of ties to Philly. And so, now he's got his guy in the front office there, the president of basketball operations, and Mike Gansey. LeBron's got some autonomy there. He's got his point guard, who is a clutch client, and Tyrese Maxey, who's his boy. And all lined up for him. Now, again, I'm a little surprised he still chose Philly because I didn't think ultimately he would actually go live there. But, I think like he put in the statement, it wasn't about family, it wasn't about living, it wasn't about any of that. He believes Philly gives him the best chance to go win. And I think the NBA absolutely loves this because they signed that deal with NBC last year, and they need an NBC. You got to have an East Coast team that's like must-see TV. And LeBron now in Philadelphia on an East Coast market with that starting five, who you could argue he's the best on papers. That's the best starting five in the NBA. Maxey, Edgecombe, who's a young stud. They just got Jaylen Brown, who we know is probably the best, I think maybe the best two-way player in basketball. You got LeBron and Joel Embiid. That's probably the best starting five in basketball in Philadelphia, and that crowd in that city on the East Coast. The NBA's got to be loving this. And for LeBron to film a documentary, if it wasn't going to be in Cleveland, which still would have been a great story, obviously him coming back home, him on an East Coast market in Philly with that starting five, and a city that's never won a championship in a long time, that's hungry for one, and they just made all these big moves. That to me is ultimately, I think the league likes this decision. I think it makes sense for LeBron business wise still, and he believes it gives him the best chance to win. And I get it. I mean, I look at Maxey and Edgecombe and Brown. That's a better defensively two-way. That's better than what the Cavs had to offer with Harden and Mitchell. Harden and Mitchell, they could score a lot of points, but can you get enough stops would have been the question, which we talked about. And then you got Joel Embiid, who's obviously, when healthy, a superstar. Browns won a championship. And so, again, it makes a lot of sense for LeBron. I'm stunned he actually did it, but ultimately when LeBron said it was just going to be up to him and down to winning, this is his way of doing it. I think LeBron thinks his best way of getting another championship is and how to have the best it factor with it is let me go somewhere where they haven't won. I went to LA, they hadn't won in a while. I went to Cleveland, they hadn't won in 52 years. I went down to Miami and we won back-to-back, created the Heatles. But if he goes to Philadelphia and helps them get over the hump and win an East Coast market, that's going to be pretty special. I mean, that's a big story. I mean, that's something that will, obviously live forever. So again, for the Cavs fans, obviously it sucks for us because we want him to come back home. Obviously, and a lot of people are in his inner circle want him to come back home. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, a lot of people really felt like he was going to come back, but I think ultimately LeBron made the decision he felt was best for him. And as an NBA fan, it's an exciting story for sure. I mean, seeing LeBron in a Sixers uniform, that's pretty crazy, even just looking at it right now. But a shout out to my guy Bruce. He said he said Sixers not winning crap. Bet on this. So Bruce is already calling it. They're not winning. Beast Girl says, yeah, I think Kobe is in big trouble. He doesn't at least try to get Kuminga. Talking about Kobe Altman. Yeah, the Cavs are expected to go after Kuminga heavy now. When I saw the article this morning that LeBron was trying to get Kyrie allegedly to Cleveland, and I saw the Cavs were trying to get Kuminga. That to me, when I initially saw that, I was like, I don't know if that's a good sign. I wonder if LeBron was trying to hinge him on coming to Cleveland was hinged on getting Kyrie, and the Dallas Mavericks weren't doing it. Kyrie wasn't doing it, so he said, I'll just go to Philly. But I think it sounds like to me it came down to Philly and Cleveland. I think ultimately it just came down who he felt had the best roster in his eyes. So Jeremy's in the house. Said if they don't win a chip with that roster, then the GOAT conversation is over. Time to ship Bronny's ass out, says Firefly. Shout out to Beast Girls. Says Mike Gansey is a beast. Shout out to Mike Gansey, Ohio native. He got it done. Dean Wade. Yeah, they got Dean Wade. Old Dean Wade. While he's in the house, Perrin John says, I don't care at this point. He didn't trust Kobe Altman, plain and simple. Fire that clown for what he has done for us. Dan is stuck in his ways again. I mean, I still think Brandon Weems he's the GM. I think he'll still get that promotion. I think ultimately, here's where I think Kobe might have screwed up. When this was written by Scoop Robinson yesterday, and this was another thing that I read today, I was like, that's not a good sign. That LeBron, and Rich Paul mentioned this on the podcast, when they traded Darius Garland for James Harden, they were not happy about that. Darius is close to LeBron now because he's a clutch client, but that really is his guy. And James Harden, great offensive player, but right now he's older, looked terrible against, younger elite guard like Jalen Brunson. The post could not guard a chair. So I think with LeBron, that maybe that was an X factor in all of this. Maybe, he was thinking Cleveland throughout the season and going into it, but maybe that trade really, didn't sit well with him in his camp, which was reported that, as I'm getting more information, excuse me, but that, maybe that's something that really was a big X factor in all this. Shout out to Corey. He said, I really thought it was Cleveland or Golden State. Threw me a curveball. I kept saying that too because of ultimately I thought he would just either you stay in California, you come back home. But LeBron threw it was definitely a curveball. This is the first time LeBron said, I don't care where I live. I don't care about, he even said it, and we put it in the statement, or he put it in his statement. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about family. It's what he wants to do. So it was his last decision, and that's it. He did what he wanted to do. Just plain and simple. I'm not mad at Bron. He did what's best for him basketball wise, but he has a target on his back for sure. People could say he has a target on his back, but I mean, they have to win, obviously. I think if he would have went to Miami, Cleveland fans would have been most upset because it would have been revisionist history back to 2010. That would have struck a nerve with people. If he had went to Golden State, that would have pissed people off because of the war, him to Philly. If you're not going to Cleveland, I always said Philly was the cleanest way to branch out of, because you dragged it out this long. Obviously, fans are upset today. They're pissed off. They wanted him here, but I think over time, people will kind of maybe people get over. But he's never played in Philly. He's going somewhere that hasn't won. It's an East Coast market, which he's always wanted to play in. So, I think if he had went to Miami or Golden State, it would have been he would have got booed when he came back. And I'm curious what it'll look like when he comes back still now. People still might boo because they're just pissed he didn't pick him. So we'll see. I mean, I'm curious Cavs fans' reaction to all this for sure. Dave says one basketball. That was my knock when I looked at the roster. You got a bunch of ball needy guys, you got a bunch of guys that need the ball in their hands. Let me rephrase that. And that to be great. And so you have a guy in VJ Edgecombe on the come up, a young stud. How's LeBron going into that lineup going to hinder his? Is it going to hinder his growth or help him? So, I told y'all that dude is a mercenary, says Bruce. The land, yeah, he spit on the land. Sorry, Lebanon High, by the way. Oh, it's all good. Good to see you, Bruce. Yeah, this was dragged out way too long. But there you have it. So yeah, I mean, Philly's gonna be an interesting basketball. You have a lot of guys that need the ball in their hands to be great. They're ball dominant guys. That's what I was looking to say. But I think to me, it's gonna be an interesting fit. I'm still stunned. I'm just sitting here processing all this. LeBron going there as a passer and facilitating the offense, not as a primary scorer. Yeah, you would think. Shout out to Herb Young, but you would think that's what his goal is gonna be. Put him at the pinch post a lot. Let him play make. That's what he was, a playmaking forward. So we've got all the scoring around him. Oh boy, on big play, Nick Padone was pissed that he's a huge LeBron fan. Nick Padone was pushing LeBron to Cleveland for a long time. But I don't want to keep my guy waiting. I rambled a little too long. We had a lot of comments, so I had to make sure I catch up on those. But joining me now from the Stump Mitchell podcast, waiting patiently. I appreciate him for joining today, but a guy who's had some insight on this as well. And I call he's like my guy Devo, Mr. Everything. He's involved in high school football, Browns football, all things sports. My guy, Roe Goldstein is in the house. What's up, Roe?
Hello, everyone. I'm just sitting here chilling with me and LeBron after making a decision. Um, we're sitting here chatting it up. Thanks for having me. It's a game-changing day today. Uh, Joseph, we've been talking every day about this, and now we're just going live, letting people hear our personal conversations. But I
Yeah,
think,
Roe and I had a lot of back and forth about it. We spoke to some people that were in the know, and it was an interesting process for sure, brother. I'm glad it's over with, to
yeah,
be honest with you.
the information kept changing by the day, and
Hmm.
you read into things, as far as the relationships, and there's a lot of information put out there through social media, and you and I talked once or twice a day. I kept changing my mind. You would tell me some new info, and I would change my mind. Then I would receive a call, and then I would change my mind back from Miami to Cleveland to Philly. So I want to say I'm sorry to the fans in the northeastern Ohio. There's a lot of. I just went on social media. There's going to be a lot of angry people out there. Um, it's tough, Joseph, when you are from an environment and from a geographical area that you were born and raised and won a championship here. You know, you can't make everyone happy, and we feel like LeBron belongs to us because he's one of ours, and he's a great representation of hard work. Everybody around him is held accountable to put the work in, right? So I know there's a lot of upset fans right now in Cleveland and Akron and the Cuyahoga Valley, maybe going all the way down to Columbus and Cincinnati. But I personally feel relieved, and if you separate the man from his obligation to being this golden prodigal child for Northeastern Ohio, I think this was a great decision for him personally, because if you account all the elements, none of us understands what it's like to make a decision as LeBron James, right? You might
Hmm.
cover 2 or 3 angles, but you're not covering them all. We don't know what it's like to uh, be a brand rep for global, corporate companies. We don't know what it's like to be a billionaire. We don't know what it's like to be in the goat debate conversation. Nike's stock right now is not doing well, so he's wearing that. He has the weight of of being the face in the movement of all these corporations, and then you combine that with the pressure of moving to a place like Northeastern Ohio and being personally responsible for creating a financial injection into the local economy. So, sad to say, you know, 50 million, 100 million, I don't know the value you could put on it, just came to Cleveland and left just like that, right?
Hmm.
And so the financial implications, and then he just went to Fanatics. You got Michael Rubin there who had some former affiliations with the Sixers. There was reports that Zeri, LeBron's daughter, they had looked at a school there in Bryn Mawr and Baldwin. We don't know if that came out to be true, but um, he started adding different elements in, and then him and Rich Paul leaving all these vague messages through these podcasts, which you have been closely watching, and kind of we've been reviewing all that information. But ultimately, I think he got the decision right because a man has a right to grow, he has a right to travel, he has a right to be happy, and the I believe the Cavs had a if they had landed Jalen Brown or Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, I think LeBron would have came home. I think this was purely a basketball, decision because he is was it 40, 41, 43? How old is
41, he'll be
LeBron?
42 in December.
42 in December, and you get to game, 29, 30, and those nights start to get stressful. Things can happen quick. You can get injured. He's been playing a long time, so if he's not having fun and enjoying, winning, a winning culture. And I had mentioned to you in one of our conversations when I changed my mind, I said he wants to win, right? The day before that, I told you he's going to make a
Yeah.
decision for me. But the day I said he's going to make a decision to win, you looking at keep it in that box. You know, they're going to win games. They have a great lineup, as you just said. I just saw Tyrese Maxey put out a post. He's pumped. Jalen Brown has already tweeted. Saquon Barkley's told LeBron he wants to go golfing. And so now you add in, you got to remember, you got the Eagles, the Phillies. That is a great sports city, right? It's a great
Hmm.
food city. It's a great, and it's still a media uh, uh, capital as well after Chicago, New York, LA, and then Nashville, whatever. Philly's up there, right? It's East Coast. They have a lot of great colleges there. It's a great basketball town.
You're gonna have Allen Iverson sitting courtside.
Allen Iverson. I
That's
mean,
gonna be
you got
crazy.
look at the alumni. You go back to Moses Malone, Dr. J, all these people. Kobe was born in Philly, right? And so Wilt Chamberlain, was born in Philly. So let's be very clear. Philadelphia is still a mecca of basketball. If you go back to the history, and they call it the city of brotherly love. I've had a chance to visit Philly a few times. I have a friend that coaches at Shipley, which is in proximity of the Bryn Mawr School. I hope little Zuri goes to Shipley, so my good friend Coach Mike Solomon can have her on campus. But listen, Joseph, I think he nailed this to the wall. And out of all his decisions, besides coming back to Cleveland, he really put his seat. He didn't let his feelings decide because if he let his emotions, he'd have been in Cleveland.
Oh yeah.
And as much as I love it, I didn't want him to come here because I know the responsibility of coming home. He's given us a championship. He owes our Cleveland fans watching out there. He owes us nothing, right? He brought us a championship. His house be 30. His I Promise School. He's kind of caught up in the goodwill department, right? He's done more charity and more contributions to Akron, Ohio, and maybe even the state of Ohio. And anybody I know, he's sending kids to college. He doesn't owe us anything. So uh, I promise you, we're going to see some jerseys getting burned up. I don't know if they're going to burn the LA jersey or if they're going to burn the old Cleveland jersey, but I think he nailed this to the wall, Joseph.
Well, it's funny you said because there one thing that was in the back of my mind throughout this whole process that I had conversations with Jersey about, my dad and you was, you know, when LeBron left here in 2018, there was a feel, and I know Jason Lloyd obviously knows has covered the Cavs for a long in Cleveland sports long. He said this recently too that when LeBron left in 18, he won the championship and he felt like he didn't have any obligations anymore. He did what he was supposed to do, and he felt like the day he won that championship, I can go do whatever I want now. I want to go play for a prestigious franchise out in LA, become a billionaire. I'm gonna go do it. Family wants to live out there. I think that's the same mindset now. I mean, clearly he said that in his statement that he wants to go do what he wants to. And I think too, the one thing I kept thinking about the most was this. We remember LeBron as the guy from 2018, right? The last time we saw him in a Cavs jersey, I think it was his best season ever. I thought he should have won MVP that year over Harden. Took that Cavs team without a lot of talent all the way to the finals and lost to an all-time great Warriors team. Wasn't no shame in that, but still, like he was unbelievable that year. We know LeBron as Superman. In a lot of people's eyes in Cleveland, he met the greatest player we ever saw. So He's not that same guy though anymore. He's still a high level player. He's 41 years old though, and I think LeBron, part of him might have been thinking, if I go back to Cleveland with just myself and that roster, we're still a damn good team, but people are going to expect me to carry like I've always carried Cleveland. And I don't know if
Right.
I don't he doesn't have the capability of doing that anymore. He's just not. We think as much as we want LeBron to be the old LeBron, he's not that guy anymore. He's still a damn good player, but he's not 28. He would tell you 2018 LeBron. He said was his best version of himself ever, ever. That's the last time I think you saw a high level LeBron. Because even when he went out to LA, there was up and down. They didn't make the playoffs the first year there. He got hurt. It was up and
Hmm.
down. I mean, it wasn't the best version of LeBron ever in LA. We saw it was
I agree.
Miami, Cleveland. You know what I mean? And so I think that was a lot of his decision too. Is the emotional side is like if I go back to Cleveland, they're going to expect me to be Superman. And I even said on the show because when I think of LeBron, I still think of him as Superman. But then I sat back and I thought about it throughout this at times. I'm like, he he's still 41 years old. Like last night, I was thinking about. I'm like, he's 41. He can't go and carry like he used to. He's just not capable of it. He needs guys like Jalen Brown, who might be, again, I think the best two-way player of basketball. You take a guy like him. You take a guy like
Right.
Embiid. You take a young stud in Edgecombe who can play a lot of minutes. You take Maxey, who's better than Darius Garland and James Harden right now, in my opinion. So, you
Right.
know, I think that he went to the lineup where he can just fit in and contribute. He's not trying to. He's just all he's doing is just adding a cherry on top to his already all time great resume. But I just kept thinking back to that man. I just think ultimately you put on that Cavs uniform, people expect you to be the old LeBron, and he's just not that guy anymore.
Well, you know what? He is still, a top player in the league, and we talked about this, Joseph. No matter what team he went to, they were probably going to increase their wins from last year because he's a Swiss Army knife, right?
One hundred
His
percent,
IQ,
the ultimate Swiss Army knife.
yeah, I mean, you could have put him on any NBA team, and they're going to have some improvement because he'll find a way to contribute, whether it was rebounding, whether it's the point forward, whether it's just leadership, right? He's going to check those intangible boxes. But you look at the climate that the Cleveland Cavaliers are in now, right? And so, um, and again, the financial implications because Philadelphia is going to be box office now, right? And
Oh yeah,
that's going to be they'll be the new. It won't be the Knicks. The Knicks just won a championship, but all the flashing lights now will be in Philadelphia. And legitimately, let's just say LeBron wins the next two championships. I know that's a big statement, but let's just say that happens. We'll look back and say that was a great decision. In
well, and then
terms
he
of
wins that. He wins six. He matches Jordan.
that changes, a lot of
Yeah.
opinions of people like us and who debate and hold the championships up as the pillar of who's the goat or whatnot. But I think, and the other interesting thing, Joseph, and I'm going off of what LeBron said directly, right? We always analyze straight from the horse's mouth. He mentioned that he had talked to his daughter and that her response played a role in that. And so me and you were talking, we talked about where she, I tried to analyze what would affect her mind, and I don't know what that conversation was like. But then he comes back and releases the statement saying that family wasn't the ultimate factor, right? So there's been a little bit of I don't know if he was throwing off the scent. That whole fiasco down with the Miami Heat, I don't know what that was about. Looking back on that, I actually thought that the Miami Heat were a legitimate. I thought they actually did leak something that was going to happen. Otherwise, why would you even have that? Why would you even create a PDF or even create artwork for something of such or whatnot? So I think this move caught a lot of people off guard, but I have to say, if you add in all the elements of financial market, media market, his products, winning basketball, uh, um, and even the coach, he's won an NBA championship uh, with the Toronto Raptors. We can't
Nick
forget that
Nurse.
either. Nick Nurse, and so you add all the elements up. If we're really being dishonest, he made he made a good decision. You know, again, if the Cavs had a been a little more aggressive, and uh, you know, Brandon Weems. I don't know what power he has or does not have at this point, but they probably should have pulled the trigger on something early. I mean, some things in life, Joseph, you have to make sure you don't leave it up to chance,
Yeah.
right? We know for a fact if they hadn't gotten certain people, we know LeBron would have been coming here. It
I think
wouldn't
if
have
they
been
had
left.
Kyrie Irving, he'd be a Cav right now.
I believe so. I believe the Jalen Brown move would have probably pulled him here as well. A higher percentage anyway, not guaranteed, but the Cavs kind of, you know, in the land of accountability, which is where I live. It's a small town,
Yeah.
and so you know, no one can hide under a rock, right? The Cavs probably dropped the ball because they could have made sure. I'm gonna give you crap. You got to trade 10 draft picks, right? Just get it done. We'll deal with the repercussions of that. Get Kyrie here so we get our goat back, and we can change the climate of basketball, change the climate of local business here in Cleveland and northeastern Ohio.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I mean, I'll get to the Cavs in a minute, but I just think wrapping up on the Sixers decision, though. Like you said, there's a lot of history to. I think Michael Jordan's last game was in Philadelphia. LeBron passed Kobe in the all-time scoring in Philadelphia the night before he passed. Uh, Obviously AI. He grew up. AI was his idol growing up. I mean, that Sixers jersey right there. That's probably one of the hottest
It looks
jerseys on the
good.
market.
It
It's
looks good.
that iconic. That's that legend. I mean, because I grew up in an AI household. My mom and dad loved Allen Iverson. That's my mom's favorite player of all time. I know all about Allen Iverson. And I think I even had that jersey growing up. So,
I
and
had one. I had the Black Iverson jersey.
yeah, I mean, everybody loves those black Sixer jerseys. So, that jersey's right there. That's gonna be there's a reason why they put this out in that jersey because that's gonna be a hot jersey to buy. So, but he was he was golfing in New Jersey when he was out there at Fanatics Fest. That's only a 45-minute hour drive down to Philly. That's not far at all. It's basically the same region. So he probably was down there scoping stuff out. You know what I mean? And if I had to guess, and I'm sure he wasn't there just for Fanatics Fest. So now that we know the decision, so you know he's always wanted to be on the East Coast, though. I think he's always wanted to play on a big East Coast market. And when Rich Paul said that he would be a Knick if they didn't win the championship, that probably said it all right there. Because, well, if he can't go to New York, what's the next best option on the East Coast? Well, it was Philly. It was wide open. You got Gainsey there as the president. Because, like you said, with Weems, and I thought that was a factor in all this. I said that 2 years ago on this show that will be a factor, which, he said it was a big feather in the cap. Rich Paul did. But ultimately his boss still is Kobe Altman. He's the president. So Gansey though is the president. There's nobody who tells him what to do. So
Right.
LeBron's got full autonomy there in Philly too, which I think was a big part. There's three things I was for sure of during this whole process I told you and I shared on the show was, well, what I reported earlier in this week from my guy that said he will announce this week that obviously that happened. So shout out to him. I'm not gonna say his name obviously, but uh, two was that I told you I was adamant he was never going back to Miami because of the autonomy reason and his relationship with Pat Riley. I just never saw him actually going back there. I never thought that was a realistic choice because how it ended in 14 wasn't great. And then when I heard Pat Riley go on the radio this week, which Pat Riley never goes on radio shows, but he went on this week, so we hadn't spoken in years. And, I'm like, yeah, that's not a good sign. I don't think he's going back there. But, that, and then, all along I said he wasn't going back to the Lakers. That's the only three for sure things I knew was what I heard earlier this week with the announcement, the Heat, and the Lakers. Other than that, everything else is like Rose said. We heard a lot of different rumors. Like, and
We
we're not
did.
going to specifics. We'll tell you guys. We heard something back in May that was supposed to be July 1st with Cleveland. That was a rumor, and maybe that was a tenant. Maybe that was the initial plan, and maybe they changed. Maybe because
Mhm.
It sounds like that Darius Garland trade. Going to the Cavs now, Rose. It sounds like that Darius Garland trade had a lot bigger repercussions with LeBron, not only with the Cavs currently then, but also getting the long term game and getting LeBron. It sounds like from reports they were, and Rich Paul even said it. That was a knock. I mean, they were not happy about that.
Right. Right. Well, you get a chance to travel, and you and I were talking earlier about the quality of life, and I believe this was a basketball decision,
One
but
hundred percent.
Philadelphia is also they did not present anything there that would make him say I don't want to come here. it's an old city. They have some of the oldest schools there. They're big on the universities and educational institutions. That's the kind of the base of what goes on out there. It's all about school there. I think they with all the Ivy League schools, I think they got what is it, 12, 13 colleges within a small proximity there.
Yeah.
It is actually a great city. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you got the Rocky Balboa on the steps. I've had a chance to see that, and I think just from a cultural standpoint, you take your wife and kid there, even though you're LeBron James, you got to acclimate somewhat to what's going on. Restaurants, food, if you got to go to a spot, whatever that looks like, and it is aesthetically, it's a city that you can fall in love with. And then let's not even talk about the fan base, Joseph. The Sixers haven't won, what is it, 43 years since they won a championship. LeBron wins a championship there, even though he's not, maybe they may not be the MVP. They may put a statue of him next to Rocky Balboa's, which I don't know if that's still there, but they're going to come out in droves. It's going to be like the same reaction we got from the Knicks and that fan base. That would be huge
Yeah.
to them to be a part of them.
And that was a
Bringing,
big factor in all this, I think, because if you weren't going to go to Miami or Cleveland, because with the Warriors, I'm like, you look at the roster, you obviously got him and Curry, but they didn't have the best roster. I felt complete. You had to have a whole team, and Curry's been hurt the last couple of years. Obviously, he's great, but if you don't win there, your jersey's not getting retired there. You know what I mean? You're just there. Like you go to Miami, obviously, I didn't think it would work because of the Pat Riley thing, but you've already played there. Your jersey's getting retired in Miami. Number 6, I mean, we know that. But if
right.
Philly, like you said, if there's one spot you can go to where it's not Cleveland, you can go and they'll absolutely adore you, and you'll look like you're the final piece they need. Which he said, I believe he said he believes he's the final piece they need to get over the hump. And you go to a place that hasn't won in a long time. I mean, you saw what happened with the Knicks when they won. Jalen Brunson's going to be eating free in New York for the rest of his life. He don't got to pay for nothing. So, he's an icon in that city. And if LeBron goes to Philly and wins there, and they're gonna be buying his shoes. They're gonna retire. They'll retire that 23 jersey without a doubt.
Wait, Joseph, I have a question. Have you ever had a Philly cheesesteak in Philly?
Not in Philly, no.
That honestly, this may sound crazy, but if you taste a Philly cheesesteak from Philly, it would make you probably move your family back there as well.
I don't know if he
That
could eat
might
that
be
during
the
the season.
deciding
Though.
factor right there.
He's got to stick on his diet. He might gain 20 pounds, a little bit of Philly.
Yes,
might be old fat LeBron if he eats all them
it,
cheesesteaks.
it's a foodie town. Chicago, Philly, those are foodie towns. You know what I mean? Authentic cuisine, and they like to eat there. So I will say this too, Joseph. This is shocking.
Oh yeah,
As much as you and I talked, we probably were both a little farther away from picking the Sixers. I mean, we went back and forth from the Cavs to probably Golden State and
yeah,
flirted with that. And the other thing that's interesting, he built this mega, Iron Man mansion, out there, and you and I were kind of thinking that would keep him on the West Coast, to have this facility. It's not a house; it's a facility, and not be there, which he obviously can go there when he retires or whatnot. But
right.
we kind of weighed that in on by saying, maybe the Warriors is it, so he can get an hour flight and get to that house whenever that's going to be complete. So here we are.
Yeah, that's what I always thought it'd be California or Cleveland. I mean, the biggest stunner in all this to me is that he really went. He's going somewhere where he's never. It's not the most. I mean, Philly's a great city, right? And we're from Cleveland. We get it. Like we get all this crap talk all the time. So, but it's not the most like luxurious destination weather wise, and what I mean. So I'm thinking if this guy, he only left Cleveland twice. So to go to Miami, which is obviously Miami, he came back. He went to California, it's L.A. I'm thinking if he doesn't, he's always had a pattern. If I leave home, I'm only going to those types of places where my family
Right.
likes to. The fact that he's going to go to Philadelphia is fascinating. I will share this, and I remember this was a rumor when he signed with the Lakers in 2018. He did go and visit schools back then in Philly,
I remember that.
and there was actually a thing. I don't know if anybody knows, and this is from people. I'm just repeating something. It's actually somebody on YouTube that put this out. He's got some great insight. He's probably reacting right now, but Not gonna say his name, but he said. I remember when he signed with the Lakers that day, July 1st. There actually was something allegedly wrong in his contract, and that he almost backed out of it. Went to Philly that week. They had till that Friday to get it figured out, and obviously they got it figured out because it was always a long plan to go to LA. But
Right.
Philly was always an option in his mind. He's always had. He's. I think. Yeah, he grew up watching Allen Iverson. I think he just. It's an East Coast market, and there's not the pressure there is in New York. New York, it's kind of like cutthroat like LA. Like LeBron wasn't fully embraced with LA. That was
At all. At all.
at all. It was like the years they didn't win, they're like, get this guy out of here, F him, go Kobe. You know what I mean? Like LA and Philly, though, it's kind of like the East Coast version of Cleveland. They're gonna love you no matter what. Uh,
Yeah.
they're ride or
Right.
die out there. And also, I thought of this too. You probably remember this because I was obviously young kid, but he played in Philly in high school against Strawberry Mansion. Against I think it was Maurice Rice was the guy's name he played against. It was a big time matchup back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember this was one of the most electric games he ever played in high school. But he's been played in Philly growing up. He's always had an East Coast admiration. I think it was always a goal of his to play in a big East
Worldwide
Coast
West.
market.
That was Worldwide West sitting there with Robertson. But I mean, listen, it's a basketball town. Allen Iverson is revered there. Even To. Um, I went to an Eagles game. Actually, my brother had the longest touchdown in NFL for his first carry. It was actually against the Philadelphia Eagles, right?
Wow.
And even when you go to, I haven't been to a Phillies game, but I saw the stadium. They are serious about their sports, and great sports town, great sports town. And when you live on that those metropolitan high density areas, you can Chicago's like that. The Bay Area, they got some areas like that, but it's a different vibe and feel and electricity. That city's going to be on fire for LeBron. I know they're
Oh yeah.
celebrating in Philadelphia. I got two calls from Philadelphia. Um, that were actually kind of annoying just because they're so happy that LeBron is coming there. So I think he's going to have a blast there. If we're being selfish, just thinking about him as the person, listen, the guy is giving a lot to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There comes a time in your life. It's almost like that midlife crisis guy who goes and buys a motorcycle after the kids are in college or gets a tattoo. You know what I mean? Let the man live. Let him. You know.
Well, I just keep going back to I think the lasting image to him matters, and I think you know when he left Cleveland the first time, it was in a bad spot. How he executed. It wasn't. It was how he executed and the whole thing. He goes to Miami, wins. He did fulfilled his obligations there. He leaves. Right. He
Mhm.
comes back though, and he wins that. How he writes the letter, the whole thing. It was beautiful. Then he wins the championship. His last season in Cleveland, which he knew going into 18, that was gonna be his last year, I believe, without a doubt. And he went out and I think, had his best season ever, and left it all on the floor for the team and for the city. And so I think, again, I just keep going back. I think him putting on that Cavs uniform, it would have to have been. They would have had to have a better. Yeah, went out and got Kyrie or somebody like that where he felt a lot
Yeah.
more comfortable. But I think a lot of again, he's not the LeBron that we're used to watching. We watched 11 years of the LeBron, who will always be. He'll go into the Hall of Fame as a Cavalier. I think he kind of mentioned that today, where I'll talk. Notice how I'll always be home. That's always going to be his franchise. But I just think that's a lot of it too. I think he feels like if I can go to a team like that where I don't have to carry as much every night, I can just kind of load manage a little, not load like sit out games, but people aren't going to expect me to be, like Embiid's already been there, Maxi's already been there. That's been their team for a long time, especially Embiid. I mean, he was there when they used to call it the process. So
Yeah.
I just think that was a lot of it too. I think like when he left LA, I won the championship, I passed Kareem, I played with my son and I left. It is what it is. But I think with him, I just kept going back to. I think him, if he would have put on that Cavs jersey, I think the expectation and pressure in his mind would have been, you know,
Well, you know what, Joseph? I'll say this: we owe him more respect than that because if you look at the statement he put out today, what was the thing he said? He said, "I want to get back to work." So he's
mhm.
understanding that he's addicted to the grind. You have to be to be at that level. I think more so than the endorsements and being famous and having money, he's actually addicted to the early wake ups. Because I think he gets a winning rush out of knowing that he's outworking people, right? Even the talent that's there, LeBron has outworked everybody.
Yeah.
Truthfully over the years. So he said in a statement today, he said, I'm looking to get back to work. He didn't. So I don't think he's even looking at it like I get to take some plays off, and I'm tired on some plays. He's probably going to go in there. I mean, his rule. I bet if we watch Maxey, who's a much younger player, Jalen Brown, probably the best two-way player as you mentioned. But if we watch their daily routine, LeBron probably is outworking them right now at
Yeah.
his age. Probably. From front to back in a 24-hour day, he's probably getting more out of the day basketball wise, right? Because he's robotic at this point. But
Yeah.
so I
And one hundred
think
percent, and and I agree with. I just think what I was saying was more so like when you look at Philly, they got Jalen Brown's one. He can carry a lot of nights. He's a high level player. Embiid is a superstar when healthy. He can carry. I think he's won an MVP. You know what I mean? I look at it like that. Like if LeBron came back to Cleveland, as great as Donovan Mitchell is, some people may say Brown or Embiid's better when they're healthy. You know what I mean? Or when
yeah,
they've won. So it's like I think it's that. Like I think if he came back to Cleveland, people would say we expect you to help carry it, like take us to the promise like you always have. And I just don't think he's. That's a lot of pressure, And there's all this stuff coming back home too, like you mentioned, off the court stuff. People, but
right.
I just think that he left here at the peak of his powers, and I think that's how he wanted to leave it. I won a championship, and I gave you the best season I ever had. And I think when he
Well,
thinks of Philly, it's like I'm going to add to something that's already been rolling. They already got superstars there. And let's be honest, Philly's got more dogs than Cleveland. Like Tyrese Maxey used to give
they
Darius
do.
Garland the business when he's played
That's a
good.
fact.
like,
That's a fact.
I would take Maxey over Garland and Harden right now, no doubt about it. Edgecombe, he's a stud. 6'7", long, can
He
defend.
is.
You know what I mean? They got two-way guys everywhere.
They got a
So,
coach. They got a GM. They got a fan base. He's checking a lot of boxes there.
right, from basketball standpoint, great. Yeah, it might have probably is the best option, honestly. So obviously the biggest thing with Embiid is his health. That's the biggest X factor in all this. And how LeBron is going to evolve his game around everybody else, which I think he can figure it out. Because when Embiid gets that ball down on the post, it's probably not coming back out. He's looking to score it. So, but I think too, as a Cavs fan, obviously I want him to come back. It would have been great nostalgia, but from a basketball standpoint for the league as a fan, again, I grew up in a Allen Iverson type of house. It's actually exciting for the league. I mean,
It
NBC
is.
is probably thrilled right now. Like
Yeah.
NBC is probably doing backflips right now.
Yeah.
Jenny Storm, whatever her name is, she's probably doing backflips right now because you just made an East Coast team must see TV every single
Yeah.
night.
Right.
There's
Right.
a lot
And
of money to
and
be made out of that too.
and Cleveland is for whatever it is. We love Ohio. Joseph, you and I are Ohio boys. I love the valleys. I love the rolling hills. I love the lakes.
It's a lot
You
more
know,
beautiful than people on the outside.
one. This is I'm pretty well traveled, and this is one of the most beautiful states. Once you just got to get out on the
Yeah,
highway,
and Roe's been around, by the way. He's lived in a lot of. He's been around. He's been
I'm a,
around a lot of beautiful places. My man, we could do a whole show about his
I'm a,
life.
I mean, I was a gypsy in my former life,
Yeah,
but you know, I think, and you said you were going to get to the Cavs. I mean, I say this respectfully, and we're on the real. I'm from a podcast and we tell the truth, but Harden, I respect, obviously Hall of Famer, top 10 ever in earnings, but you know, he has qualities on the court. Because I will show him some respect, right? I'm not gonna say what's going to come to first mind,
oh,
but
you can say whatever.
he's a bum. All right, I said it. I feel so much better, man. I
Oh
was
no,
holding
that's
that
why it's
hand.
called the real. You could say
He,
whatever.
he's a friggin' bum. My guy from Chicago, he always said that guy's a friggin' bum. You know what I mean? He's a friggin' bum. Let's just call it what it is. I feel better every time I say it. You know what I mean? Oh my goodness, that felt great. But just holding. Then we love Spider Mitchell. And he's a superstar. But they just gave him all that money, and Will Spider Mitchell actually, he can't carry a team on his own. He burns out. He's getting older as well. We might
He
have
needs
seen a better
somebody to
Spider
help
Mitchell
mold him.
already. And so then you got Mobley and Allen again. I know you're going to touch on the Cavs, but I think LeBron really looked at that lineup and was like, man, this is going to be a grind, you know? And
There's a reason why he wanted Kyrie. Because
right,
I was texting some
ball
people
handler.
yesterday, like, why would you want Kyrie? He's hurt. Because when Kyrie's healthy, LeBron trusts Kyrie. I think it's been LeBron's best teammate he ever had personally. I thought the fit was like, if they would have
I
stayed
would
together,
agree
I
with that.
think that duo, they could have been the next Shaq and Kobe. They would have stayed together. I think they were, because it was big, small, killer, carry. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, but he wanted Kyrie because he trusts Kyrie, because he knows Kyrie will deliver. He knows Kyrie will. He's a dog. He
He's a,
knows
what you say? He's a dog.
he's a pit bull out there. Like, Kyrie
Yes.
is, to me, always been like little Kobe in some ways. Like, he's just,
Yeah, yeah, one at the point guard. But you look,
yeah,
and then you look at, um, you analyze Mitchell and Harden. They are not championship breeds, right? Like one of them had a
mm-mm.
won a championship somewhere and taken their team to the promised land. That would have shifted things, but there's tiers of guys, right?
Yeah,
That's just in life in general. There's dudes, and then there's dudes under that guy, and then
yeah,
there's you go down a little more. Then there's the next level of dudes, So you know, him playing with Harden and Mitchell, and and Allen. I love Allen. He's a great culture, and the kids love the afro and everything. But he's not a. Is he a stud? Probably not. You know, Mobley is will probably never matriculate to being the number two go to on the team. If he's your number three or number four go to, you probably got a pretty decent team. Me
yeah.
and you talk
I
about
think
that.
like him and oh yeah, like I thought the two most consistent players this postseason were Mobley and Struess. I mean, I thought they impacted every game because Mobley's a dominant defensive player. He's really improved his offense. Struess is just you can tell he grew up in the Miami culture because he's a great shooter and he just hustles a lot, gets a lot of rebounds. He just does a
He
lot of
does, but Stoops is not going to bring you home
no,
the
but I'm
hard
just
way.
talking about like pieces. Like I'm talking about like I mean you look at certain pieces like that guy can
Yeah,
be on a championship team and contribute either as a role player or a starter. Yeah, but that's one of my because I've covered the Cavs. I've seen the show and like some of my guys we talk about. That's my one thing with Donovan is Harden's Harden. He's I've told you his nickname when people call him in the streets off the air, but you know
yeah, a friggin'
he's
bum is what they could call him. But yeah, I know
but
that name too.
I don't know. Winning's always been the number one priority. And I'm not here trying to bash him, but you know, he came to Cleveland primarily because they wanted to pay him the money, and that's why he came to
Yeah,
Cleveland. Why would a guy want to? He's been all over. He's been to L.A. He's from L.A. Yeah, I want to come to Cleveland because they said we'll pay you that money. I'm curious what he's going to re-sign for. But anyways, Mitchell though, I've always said that about him. Like he just great player. I think he tries. He also he's played his ass off, but he just doesn't. Sometimes when I watch him, like I feel like he acts like he knows what it takes, but he doesn't know what it takes, and he needs somebody else beside him to help carry. Which that's why LeBron made a lot of sense. But you know, they got to figure it out. I think with the cat, I know there people are saying they're going to go out and get Jonathan Kaminga now, which they need a 3-and-D wing, so it's a good, but that's not a they're not winning the East with Jonathan
hey,
Kaminga.
this is the have and have nots, Joseph.
All right, I
You
mean,
either going playing for all the marbles, or you just another
man,
just.
we went from getting a Ferrari to getting a gosh darn Honda Civic. Like, I mean, what are like nothing against
I
Honda
mean,
Civics. They run great, they're great engines, but it's not a Ferrari. I mean, it's not.
the part that sucks for us here in Ohio, in this great football state that we live in. It is kind of it's kind of a downer, because it's like, man, I got to watch friggin' Harden dribble the ball 30 times instead of, what I mean, the farewell tour of our best player ever out of the state. So, it is and you said it, the coverage is going to change as far as the games coming on. We're going to see less of the Cavs, which, I mean, who wants to watch the Cavs nationally now without LeBron there? So
And if the
he,
Cavs were auditioning to LeBron in the playoffs, first round out is impressive. You should have beat the. I think you should beat Toronto more handily, but you beat the really good Pistons team all year in 7. You've dominated Game 7.
that was good series for them,
I,
right?
I thought that was the turning point, but man, I think that
That
On and
18
off
point lead,
that
that
how you
18 point
choke
lead
that
they gave
away.
up.
But not only that, how they responded
Right.
because
You are right.
because remember when they played the Knicks 3 years ago, they quit and they looked soft. And remember, Allen said the lights were too bright. And then you go back, you blow the lead, they walk you down, they come back and win that game. But then you quit right after that, and just the game planning sucked. I mean, it was like Barkley said in game two. Mobley had 12 points, I think, in the first quarter. First, it was dominant. They didn't feed him the ball in the second quarter, or the second half. It was just bad
Well,
coaching, bad game planning. You had no dog, and then they quit it. They quit when they came back to Cleveland. That game four, the way they lost like that, to not go out there and just and roll over and lose like that at home. I think they were down by 50 at one
Joseph,
point, and
the
then to
Cavs
hear
coach,
Kenny Atkinson say analytically, where I mean that right there was the,
we're up and we're up. I've
if
never
you're
seen anything like
auditioning to
that.
get LeBron in the spring, that wasn't a great. That was probably the worst you could have asked for. And he's
Kenny
already pissed because you
Atkinson,
traded Garland away.
Atkinson should have been fired, right?
I
You
agree.
know, and if you and I go to work and say something as ludicrous as he did in that on that same capacity for whatever our jobs are, we'd be good. We'd be going to HR. like HR wants to talk to you. Like make sure you're okay. You
Yeah.
know, they probably gave us a drug test, so we're on a facility at work. But that's another thing, Joseph. He's probably looking at the coaching staff. Now here's the interesting thing, because you and I know people that know they're affiliated with the goat, right? With King James,
Mm-hmm.
I call him the goat. He's my guy. But think about the people close to him, right? This show is called The Real. Let's keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know people personally next to him or in his camp or affiliated with his camp or family. They were probably counting on him being here as well,
Oh
because
yeah.
here's the thing, Joseph. You know, people are aligning not only business but there was a wave that comes with LeBron, right? Whether it's his I Promise School attending the games, whether it's him being able to make a Christmas appearance in Akron because he's already in this in this market because he's playing for the Cavs. It might be somebody over here needs him to do a post and say he was in. So people that are in it, everybody's not as cool as we are, though. So we have a lot of cool things going on, but some people need that it's energy, right? It's an
Mm-hmm.
injection of energy, and him he's worth money, literally. Like he can walk into a building and put a post out or say he's in there, and that will actually generate people and sales ultimately. So
Yeah.
uh,
I mean,
I'm
people
just
listen to a cupcake lady because he ordered cupcakes there years
if he
ago.
went and bought a cupcake right now down the street from my house, I'm there. And I'm gonna put a post up and say I'm eating the same cupcake LeBron ate, and he was it was good as he said it was. So you know that is the interesting, and we're going to see in your next show, Joseph. We're going to see the reaction. I bet if you looked out the window right now, you probably see a couple some smoke, different smoke sacks, smoke clouds in the air and down in the city. Because I know people are not happy with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be curious to see what that's gonna be like because if you look at the four options, which I think Cavs, I would say really three: Cavs, Sixers, Warriors. Let's throw in Miami. The only one, if you're not going to Cleveland, I thought the only one you go to is Philly because people would say, okay, it's an East Coast, So I'm curious to see how we look at it like that, but here Cleveland fans, they are ride or die. That's how it should be. Fans should be loyal. They're loyal to where they're from, and that's what makes it great. What makes Cleveland one of the best fan bases in the world. But yeah, I am curious. I'm curious what that game's gonna look like when he comes back here in a Philly
Ooh,
uniform.
will they boo him or will they cheer him?
That's the yeah. Is it gonna be booze? Is it gonna be because the last few times he came here, when he came here last time, he got emotional on the bench. He was crying. They put the video up, and he got emotional, and it's been nothing but love. But I don't know. That's gonna be interesting. Because is this move really any different than? Well, maybe is this move really a lot different to him going to the Lakers in some ways? Because obviously that was a little more off the court decision going there, but he was going there to win in an LA uniform, and it was a big market, big franchise, big team. This is kind of similar to me, and I just go back to when he won that championship in 2016 and walked out in 18. He was a lot of the field was like, I did what I need to do here, and I can do whatever I want now. I'm not obligated here anymore. Like,
Yeah.
Everybody said when I came back, as long as I win one, you can do whatever after that. He did that. So, to me,
Yeah.
this is kind of similar. He's chasing the big market. Big Sixers is a big brand in basketball. East Coast, big team, like box office. Like there is a lot of off the court stuff here. He can make, I mean, big money out there in the East Coast.
Yeah.
So
You know what though, Joseph? I thought about this today, and this is the one thing that stood out. You look back in retrospect, it's almost like whether it's a marriage or the college you pick, or did you stay at a job too long? Should I have sold my house? Those type of things. You going back and looking at it, truthfully, in my opinion, his worst tenure has been with the Lakers. He gave them 11 years for one championship, right? And
eight
then
years.
and in the city, they don't. He's not revered there. He's not Kobe. He's not
No.
Magic. He's not going to get a statue outside. They were like, "See you later." I saw some of the energy in the comments from fans there. So looking back on it, Joe, it's like he spent a lot of time in LA, and it was kind of like, was that really worth it? Because his run in Cleveland, legendary. He gets drafted here, 8 straight finals. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then when he came back, he won us that ring. And Cleveland, this is for you, and the parade, epic. He goes to Miami, probably one of the best runs ever in basketball. That run he had with Dwayne Wade, as you said, that was could arguably be prime LeBron, where he couldn't be stopped. He was very athletic. He still was young and spry. But that Lakers his time in that tenure there wasn't that great. You
No,
know,
I don't. I thought it was kind of looking back on it. No, I think he should have left there 3 years ago. I think he
and he won the championship during in the bubble. Let's not
yeah,
forget that.
which a lot
But
of people don't.
some people discount that. I don't. I think it was legit because I thought it was tougher, but it's always going to be an asterisk even next to that
It's always an
championship.
asterisk. Yeah. I feel like he kind of overplayed his hand in LA. I think he stayed there too long. I think they should have
Yeah,
left. I think if he would have left in 22 when they had the All Star game back in Cleveland, that would have been and that team was on the rise still. They had young, Mobley, Allen, and Garland. They were they were ahead of schedule. They were beating a lot of teams pretty. Or if he would have maybe went somewhere else, I think he stayed in LA too long. I think the reason why he stayed out there is because they wanted him to pass, Kareem in that Lakers uniform. They had the whole ceremony. That
yeah,
ceremony they had was scripted a year in advance. But
yeah. That was a
now
little weird.
and that's why once that happened, they were done with him because the Russell Westbrook thing that soured that relationship with him and the French because
Yeah,
she had to pay $8 million out of her own money. Jeannie Butt, she wasn't the richest of owners. She had to pay $8 million out of her own money to get Russell Westbrook out of town, and it was all about okay, well, let's make the best out of this. Let's pass Kareem in this uniform. We'll get your son. It's good revenue, and they made some money off that jersey sales. But I think basketball wise, though, in terms of like winning, competing, he like you said, I think I've always felt like he wasted more years out there than he actually did
he
because
did.
you never
I
really
mean,
felt
looking
like
back on it, we can say
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah,
you never felt like I never went into the playoffs. Like you would think maybe they got a puncher's chance because it's him and AD if they're healthy, but you never really felt like they were the real team that was going to win. They weren't better than Jokic and the Nuggets.
and,
They weren't
and,
better than the Thunder. They weren't better than the Spurs. They weren't.
here's the other thing, though. Those are the other. I mean, I'm just looking back on his career. These are probably things that he'll look back on. But I never understood when him and Kyrie won. To me, from the optic, looking from a distance, it seems like he never tried to purposely mend and create a real bond with Kyrie. Because had he really off the court, what I mean, bonded with Kyrie, he was a business entity and moved as such. And if they're in the locker room, I think he was letting Kyrie know I'm the big dog. What I mean, I'm the corporate monster in here, and I'm moving as such. I think
Mm,
there was a disconnect there because that's one of the best tandems in the history of basketball. And you guys don't go bowling. Your families don't hang out. You didn't. I didn't get the intent. It seems like LeBron was like whatever. I felt like LeBron almost treated Irving like he was just another guy. Which what I mean. It's like, hey, that's the type of guy you gotta Stockton and Malone that thing. Like, hey, buddy, our
yeah.
family's gonna be hanging out. We're gonna be at Nike together. Like we're gonna go ahead do the Pippen and Jordan. We're going to be together here for 6, 7, 8 years. So, so he just let Irving seem like just go away too easily, and then he goes and spends 10 freaking years, 11 years in LA that was very meh and ho hum, right? And
Yeah, you could say he was a little more into the Lakers franchise and catering to them than he was with the Cavs during that time in terms of like who you had on, like, yeah, I mean, because well, ultimately, what I think what pissed Kyrie off, why he left, was because the Cavs tried to offer him to get Eric Bledsoe in a trade, if I remember correctly, and this is after they won, and that obviously that would make Kyrie feel some type of way, like, dude, I just hit the shot. We like you want to trade me for that guy who's was a decent
Oh
player,
yeah,
but
a
he ain't
bigger
no
bum.
Kyrie Irving,
No,
like I mean, so yeah, I think that, but it's crazy. A lot of these duos, you look at Shaq and Kobe, they fell apart. You look at I mean, the only one that looked like they were always together, but then now we know the truth behind all was Scotty and Mike. Scotty said they
right,
never went out to dinner, the two of them ever, and
right.
now they hate each other, obviously because of some
Yeah, that's gotten
obvious
ugly.
things. But but they were the only ones that really made it work. But I think a lot of it because they were fully bought into this is our goal. But I think LeBron, to be honest with you, I think when he came back in 14, I think initially, he said, I want to finish my career here, blah, blah, blah. But I think once he won that championship in 16,
The burden was off.
the burden was off. And I think he just said, you know what? I want to go do what I want to do. There wasn't a long term commitment. Where with Jordan, he was always committed to the Bulls. As long as he was playing
Yeah,
championship level basketball, he was going to be in a Chicago Bulls uniform.
right.
That's just how it was. And I think they probably had better structure. Kraus, uh, obviously you talk about the relationship, but Jerry Krause was a damn good GM. He
He
was a
was.
great. He found Tony Kukoc. He found a lot of these guys, and he
He
built.
put a team
He was
together.
an
Got the
architect. I mean,
coach he
that guy.
needed.
He's one of the greatest GMs ever. And then Phil Jackson was the ultimate.
Speaking of GMs, that GM is not a good GM. We look at LeBron has been the GM. Let's be honest. He's been
Too much
playing 21
turnover.
years. He's been the GM at least 14 of them years. So he has not been a great GM, Joseph. And I don't know if he's going to. He might own a team one day. We look at Michael Jordan, who was not a great owner, right? And I don't know if that was purposely done or if there's some kind of voodoo on that guy that he's not allowed to win as an owner, whatever. There, but
Yeah.
LeBron has not been a good GM. I mean, you know, if we're really looking at, and he's had his hands in being a GM. We're not going to pretend like he's not the reason why guys are coming in and out of town, right? He
Right.
definitely got phone calls. There's no way I don't think Anthony Davis ends up with the Dallas Mavericks, and somebody don't talk to LeBron about it. I'm not buying that, right? He did not wake up and say he's a clutch guy too. That was a little weird to me, even though Anthony Davis couldn't stay healthy. They were supposed to be, uh, uh, you know, somewhat have a connection there, brotherhood or whatnot. But you know, I don't know if those GM skills are going to carry over when he becomes an owner. But he has not done a great job.
I
Assembling.
think that's always been the separator between him and Jordan was Jordan initially didn't like Phil Jackson because Doug Collins let him do whatever, but eventually once he
Right.
bought into he allowed himself to play in structure. Then he won 6 for 6. LeBron, his best structure he ever had and stability was with Pat Riley because it's Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. That's the best coach and GM he's ever played
Solid.
for.
Solid.
He could have stayed down in Miami and they probably would have won another championship or two eventually. Pat would have
Probably.
figured it out. But he didn't like playing in structure and that's why that
And
relationship
they
fell
and they took
apart.
his cookies. His
They took
cookies
his
disappeared on the
cookies. I
plane.
told the story. I heard he wanted extra tickets one time, and Pat said, "You're not getting extra tickets. You want to get extras, get off
Yeah.
extras from you." He got pissed
Yeah.
about that. D
How's that
Wade had
working
to,
out for you, Pat?
yeah. I mean, D Wade had to mediate a lot, and then I'm not going to say that. I'll tell you the story off the air because I don't want to say it. But how LeBron actually told Pat Riley he was leaving Miami was not how they report. I don't. From what I heard, it's not how it was actually portrayed in the whole Vegas story. It was a lot deeper than that. I'll tell
Right.
you off the air, but that was like the ultimate. Like Pat was done. He was like, you know what, I can't. Like, but yeah, I think he's never played, and which is why Philly makes sense other than Cleveland because Mike Gansey, his guy, is the president, so he's already
Couple
going in
guys.
there with some cachet.
Man, he has, and I believe this too. And this will come out because Joseph, I have a business background in
Hmm.
terms of my education piece, right? And they call me Goldstein for a reason. I always think about business and what are the business implications of the decision. Once we get over the fandom and the emotional ties to our teams, how does it affect business? And so, again, I don't think it's coincidence he was with Michael Rubin and Fanatics. A billionaire. I bet you any amount of money. We're gonna look up in the next 6 to 9 months. He's gonna have some deals going on and something going on. Is gonna have some ties back to some local business guy in Philadelphia, right? They have some big dogs in Philadelphia, obviously in the corporate world,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to, like I said, I'm sure Michael Rubin already knew that he was coming out there, right? I'm sure they went in the back room and somebody knew, Joseph. We didn't know it for sure, but somebody knew, right? And so you look at it from that standpoint, and if he wins, winning cures all, Joseph. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you and I, let's just say we don't see eye to eye, but we got the number one podcast in America. Well, guess what? We're gonna still spend Christmas together. We're gonna have a company Christmas party. And winning just has a way of healing and creating. LeBron is a media. He loves the media, right? He loves attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's very sly about it, but he loves that camera because he understands he has to sell products. He understands he's a corporate entity, right? And so, if they win and they get a championship ring or even go deep in the playoffs, man, do you know how much money is going to be generated? We're talking about TV time and commercials and sponsors and again, he's going to align himself. Uh, if he had went to the Warriors, it would have been Silicon Valley, right? He would have been playing
Mm-hmm.
for the Warriors, but somebody in Silicon Valley would have probably been cutting deals, and that's who he would have been having lunch with and spending it, golfing with. So it's no different from Philly. He's going to attach himself to some big dogs. It's going to be some
Oh, and I
tough
guess
guy.
NBC's gonna love LeBron and Philly because they need an East Coast team to be box office. That's their
Listen,
big market is the
large
East Coast.
large Jewish community there, and that community there, they have a big stake in media, education. It's gonna be some guy with two curly locks that what I mean is got an ink pen that's very powerful. I'm sure LeBron's gonna go have go see the guy, right? This is how it works when you get away from the television, right?
Yeah. Shout out to my
Yeah,
guy Demon Hunter Cards. He said, "Oh, say it. Why he scared LeBron to come out?" He said, "Tell the story out there." All right, I'll tell you. I'll tell you part.
yeah. You scared of LeBron? Joseph, I
No,
got
I'm
your
not
back. You
scared of
can't.
anybody. I don't give a shit. I mean, who am I? I'm just a little
I got your back.
podcaster in Ohio. But so I'll bring. I want to bring this up just to kind of give backstory. So like, it says Pat Riley says he took LeBron's Heat exit personally. Was very angry. Well, there's a reason why. I know the reason why. At least what I heard from somebody. So it's not that the reason why. And it says, I'll read this right here. It says in a profile by ESPN the Mag. This is in 2017. It said Wright Thompson Riley spoke about the phone call he received from LeBron from James to inform the Heat president he was not, or that he was going back to Cleveland in the summer of 2014. Pat says I was silent. I didn't say anything. My mind began to just go, and it was over. I was very angry when LeBron left. It was personal for me. It just was. I had a very good friend who talked me off the ledge and kept me from going out there and saying something like Dan Gilbert. I'm glad I didn't do it. So this is why I never thought he was going back to Miami, by the way, because that relationship was not great. But the story was that when LeBron left, how he told Dan Gilbert, or how he told Pat Riley, from I heard, was that Pat Riley and his crew allegedly went out to, I have to say that, had to go out to Philly or out to Vegas to meet with Rich Paul and another one of LeBron's liaisons. So just leave it at that. But uh, LeBron, I think they thought LeBron was coming to the meeting. From what I heard, that was the rumor. They thought LeBron was supposed to show up to the meeting, and
Mm-hmm.
they sat there for an hour talking to Rich Paul and this guy, and then Pat Riley and his team went out in the hallway and allegedly and said he ain't showing up. They're playing a game on us. Like he's not showing up to this meeting. And so I guess Pat Riley went back inside and asked Rich Paul what was going on. Eventually, that's when he got on the phone with LeBron, and LeBron told him he was leaving, and then he called Dwayne Wade immediately. And I guess LeBron said, "I'm going back home." I don't think, from what I heard, people didn't think LeBron was actually in Vegas, or what? Maybe he was in Vegas, but he wasn't showing up to this meeting like he was allegedly supposed to, and that
Right.
made Pat Riley feel some type of way. Like I came to this meeting, me and my team, and they kind of they held it in the hallway after an hour sitting there talking to Rich Paul and this guy, and they're like, he's not coming to this fucking meeting, like he ain't showing up. And so they
Right.
went back in there like, here, what's the deal? And then that's eventually when they left. They got on the phone with Pat. He got on the phone with LeBron, and LeBron said, "I'm going back home." Then I guess he called Wade, and Wade said that. Uh, and this story actually, somebody on YouTube actually put this story out in full detail. But Wade actually, or he called Dwayne Wade and he asked him, "Did you know about this?" And Wade said, "He just told me. I guess he he's got some letter coming out with that side, and that letter was wrote 2-3 weeks ahead of time. So that was the
Right.
story. But you could see kind of how Pat Riley and that relationship, they were not, you know,
Well,
they didn't.
Pat Riley's old school, and
Yeah, he
you
didn't
know,
like the way when he says it was personal. Why he was pissed, and he almost went Dan Gilbertish when he left was because of that. He was pissed how it went down. He was pissed how
right.
they went about it, and that was the story.
Well, my granddad used to say it's better be pissed off than pissed on, right?
Yeah.
So it's all, at the end of the day, it's business. I'm sure there's stories out there about Pat Riley where he wasn't a knight in shining armor and dealing with player personnel, uh, um, and Dan Gilbert, he had some skeletons in his closet on how he dealt with LeBron leaving with the decision, and he didn't carry himself such a classy gentleman and an emotional state of mind. So, everyone's human. LeBron is prone to not be perfect, and people have always criticized his decisions. They're going to criticize this decision. The main thing I've already seen on social media is he's jumping on a bandwagon of a team that's loaded. I said, yeah, but they haven't won a championship, so they're not. It's not like he went to the Knicks after they won the championship, right? So people are going to have something to say
I think if
regardless.
he went to Miami or Golden State, that would have been more because it's like Miami, you're doing it to us twice. Yeah, that's fuck.
LeBron is
And then if
going
you
to
go to
get
Golden
criticized
State, it's
forever.
like the 10-year anniversary of the team win. You want to
That would
go
have been
join
weird.
that?
That would have been
Yeah, just
weird,
what like Channing Frye told him in his face at the reunion. He told me because I told him it'd just be kind of yuck. Like it just that's gross. That's what he told me because you
and that's
can't wear
that's
that
Curry.
uniform. Like Pippen would never, or Jordan would never wear a Pistons uniform.
Curry would
Larry
never
Bird
come
would
to the
never wear
Cavs.
a Lakers uniform ever.
No, Curry wouldn't join in with the Cavs. And then now that we on that subject, think about this decision. This is how we can call LeBron a boss because this decision, out of everything we've ever seen him do, Joseph, you got to think about Draymond Green, who looks like is a close friend of his. I mean, this
Mm.
decision to me, he's letting everybody know I'm my own boss. I'm doing what I want to do. He didn't try to, to walk away from all his childhood teammates and Brandon Williams, and he didn't go to Golden State with Draymond and play with a guy he loves in Curry and seems to be have a bro, some weird brotherly affinity for, and he didn't go, come back home and go back to his old relationships. He didn't go back to Miami. He understands the real estate down there. He probably has a restaurant down there. So there was a lot of interpersonal relationships, and he had a lot at stake in terms of personal equity and personal relationships. And this decision, he made a big boy decision, and not everybody has that type of moxie. I personally think this is the best decision he's made, you know, out of all the decisions, obviously, except coming back to Cleveland, because I think he got it right, Joseph. You add in everything that goes into that, you know, and some people don't know what it's like, Joseph, to live somewhere new. That is, especially when you're in a position where he has access to money and resources. He can go visit places, and his kids go to great schools. You meet there's nice people and people you want to meet all over the world, right? And
Mm.
so imagine if a Kobe Bryant or somebody who's on one team their whole career had got a chance to traveling is fun. There's nothing cooler than meeting new friends, and LeBron is meeting restaurant owners. He's meeting businessmen, and him and his family are exploring a new city. That is exciting. Basketball takes up most of his time, but he still has a life and a family, and his wife. I personally think they're going to love Philadelphia. You know, um, they're obviously not going to be going to places that you know their money's going to allow them to enjoy things a little differently. That's fair, but they're not going to lack for entertainment value. Kevin Hart is a good friend of his. He's a Philadelphian. You know, um, you know, I think he's going to, and he's going to. I think he's going to win. And winning again, if his knee is hurting, and they're in first place. His knee ain't hurting, right? He'll ice that down and
Well,
deal
he,
with
he
that.
doesn't have to go out there like he has and have to rush back like they because if he don't come back, the team might miss the playoffs or they might get on a slump. You know what I mean? Like he's in a situation now where you got a guy in a dominant like this team really didn't need LeBron. You look at him like people are already. I think the odds came. I think the Sixers are already favored to win the East next year, even without LeBron, because
Well,
they went
wait,
out and
wait,
got
hold up
JB.
now.
They got to get Jalen Brown. Like he
Yeah,
obviously
that's true.
he takes in a different level. Obviously, we know that, but they were already a team where you look at on paper and you're like, that's a damn good looking team.
I apologize. I forgot about the Jalen Brown
Yeah, I mean
addition.
they got Brown, who was an MVP candidate this year. They got Embiid, who's won an MVP. You got
You're
Maxey
right.
Edgecombe, which is a big, nice two-way backcourt. Like, so they didn't really like need LeBron, but he obviously is a big bonus, and it takes him over the top. They probably. I mean, I don't know if they're the favorites to win right now, but I'm sure they're top 2 to 3 to win the whole thing next year. So now
Well, I
like
travel.
they
I
got to fill
travel
out their
with.
bench. Like I shouted my guy Adam Hurley in the chat because I agree. I'm curious to see what they add to their bench. You still got to have depth. You got to have rotate.
Yeah.
People. It's an 82 game season. You got to have depth. So I'm curious how they
Look,
fill out the rest of their roster. But
who they get? You did you see what they got? What they do in the draft this year?
I don't know who they drafted this year. To be honest with you, I got to go back and look.
There was a lot of talent came out in the draft. I mean, a lot of people.
It was
A
a good
lot of people.
draft.
It's a good draft,
I mean, the
but
Cavs draft pick. He looks really good. He just made first team All Summer League.
I think I saw that.
Malik Thomas. He looks like a stud. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to add depth and everything. But he's got guys that, and I think ultimately what it came down to is he probably you trust Embiid over the two guys on the Cavs team. Obviously, you trust Jalen Brown over the guards we have. You probably trust Maxey a little bit more than he does James anybody else in the Cavs. So it's like
He trusts Nick Nurse over Atkinson.
he trusts Gansey. Like it's
He
an
trusts
East Coast
Gansey.
market. He wants to be on the East. He's always wanted to be on the East Coast. It's again. I just keep when Rich Paul made that statement about if they didn't win a championship, the Knicks, he would be in New York. That to me was like, okay, he probably wants to be on an East Coast market. Prefers to be. So it all set up perfectly. Again, he's like you said, golfing with Kevin Hart. He's joking around with Kevin Hart. Obviously, known Sixers fan. Gansey all of a sudden takes the job in Philly. It all lined up perfectly for him. So
Man, Philly is going to be the destination.
they took
Philly.
LeBaron Philon Jr., a guard out of Alabama. He was actually a pretty good player.
Okay, are the Sixers, in your opinion, the favorite to come out the East?
Um, I'm trying to think of the other teams. Obviously, you got Miami, although they got to get more shooters, and I'm sure now Pat's going to go to work that this is over. But they got a great front court that could. I look at Bam and Giannis; they can go toe to toe with LeBron and Embiid, but defensively, I don't know. I mean, the Knicks. I'm not as high on the Knicks. I think that team. I think is going to start to decay over time because they're not going to be able to pay everybody. They already
Yeah,
lost some guys. I don't think they're going to repeat, but. I mean, Indiana's coming back, but they're not. We'll see what they look like. Boston, I would take Philly over Boston. I mean, Tatum's great, but the other guys, I'm not. Paul George, he's old. Yeah,
he's a freaking bum.
okay, that's another bum in Rose eyes. Detroit's a nice team still, but the Cavs beat Detroit. I mean. Honestly, I would probably say Philly. Yeah, I mean Philly. They're the best team on paper. They're the best. Now they got it, but to me, it lines up perfectly for them because I think the rest of the East. The only team I think if they can fill out the rest of their roster properly could be Miami because they have guys that have won and have been to the finals, and it's the
Yeah,
Heat. The Cavs are still a pretty good team. They just gotta figure out how they fill out the roster. They're going to win a lot of games in regular season like they always have. They're going to win the first round. It's just when they get to the second round of in the final four, the elite teams. That's where they got to prove they can compete with those
well,
guys. But
a good friend of mine told me one time, 20 years from now, no one's going to remember who came in second place. They're going
right,
to they're going to remember who won the championship. So
I'd say if we got a Eastern Conference Finals of Philly against either Cleveland or Miami, that would be Pretty cool.
Yeah, again, I just go back because I always look at the, there's an accounting term, opportunity cost, right? And so you miss out on something. What is the cost of what you missed out on? I just don't understand why the Cavs didn't be a little more aggressive in making sure, uh, not only providing us with it, when I say championship team, up the ante a little bit. You
Yeah.
see these teams going to off season. Yeah, you made a good draft pick, but let's make sure we win, right? Let's go get Irving, or let's go get. And I know people say, well, this and that, and it's not. Yeah, well, just get it done so we can get LeBron here for Christ's sakes. There's a guy downtown Cleveland with a hot dog stand. That's a $30,000 decision that affected for him. He's not going to sell as many hot dogs now, right? There's a
Yeah.
there's a coffee shop down there that's not going to sell as many mochas because he's not coming. This impacts business and the economy. Just get it done.
Hey,
And
it's a great opportunity for though. Shador
what?
Sanders. If Shador Sanders can go out there this year and take over and be the franchise guy, that's going to generate because he's got his own. I mean, look how much he's already drawn. Look how much he's already brought to the city media wise. I mean, even my channel.
I think in a situation like that, you know, I know some local. I'm not going to say their name, but I know a local player here that, given the right situation, could be could be nationally known, right? And just with a
Hmm.
little bit of tweak, meaning having the organization be, or a high school team being 100% behind a player that is special, right? And that's a hard nut to crack, Joseph, because the organization doesn't seem to be aligning him with that type of story, right?
No, they don't.
That you already face adversity when you're facing defenses that are scheming. Then your own coaching staff is not all the way bought in and catering things towards your success. It's going to be difficult for that kid, because they
Yeah, and
don't
I,
seem
I,
to
I I
believe.
still think they're looking towards the draft coming up to get the name they probably have been targeting for a while, but they still got to go
Yeah,
out and play and prove it this year. But but yeah, going back to what you said, I mean, definitely, yeah, he obviously would have been a big boost to the economy, no doubt about it. I mean, he drives the economy in Cleveland, so that that.
that to me was the biggest
Yeah.
implication, and to me, it's a little scary that one person can swing $100 million left to right
Well,
with
not only
the
that, you got to remember too the stadium. The Browns are moving out of town. I mean, they're going not that they're going far, but
yeah,
they're
yeah,
still
that
going to
that
be in Brook
changes
Park.
things, man.
Yeah.
Changes the parking, the casino revenue down there, Jax. I mean, it changes a lot of things. Him leaving, not being here for his farewell,
And if
and
this
competing
Cavs
at a high
team
level.
doesn't show anything the next, I mean, people are already pissed off because of how they looked, and they didn't get LeBron. I mean, I got people in the chat going off saying fire everybody. So it's like they come out this year and they do the same thing. They're kind of
They,
fizzled out. You're just
they
gonna have the
gave him.
Guardians, and people. Number one, people still hate the Guardians. Oh, not say hate, dislike because it's not the old team's name. There's still people out there
Right.
like, but all they're not. They'll win a wild card game, and then they get to the Yankees and they get smoked. Let's just be honest. So it's
Our
like,
Cleveland sports
yeah,
teams right now are very just, the MEH is the word meh. Like but look at the flip side, Joseph. Ticket prices should be down a little bit. It's not like we're paying premium dollar. I mean, the Browns tickets are still in demand, but we should be able to walk in the Guardians game or Cavs game for about $11. We should get a hot dog, a beer.
hey,
The only thing we got to pay that's going to cost us is that
you
$20
got to pay more
parking.
for parking than you will for the ticket.
Then we will for the ticket. So let's look at the bright side.
I mean, here the Browns are probably loving this because I actually like the young core they're building. I think they're actually, for the first time in my life, they actually think they're doing it right. I think they got the right
Yeah,
coach. We'll talk more about that obviously this season with you and Stump, but shout out to Coach Stump. But I feel like they're finally building something. If they can go into that stadium with a team rolling and a franchise quarterback, they'll be. I mean, the Browns are always the top of the town, anyways. But was it 3 years from now, they probably could be the team that's rolling. So if they do
I just went to
it's a golden
the.
opportunity for them.
I'll tell you something, Joseph, and now we've jumped to football. Went to the Canton Hall of Fame this morning, and it was Friday, and I just happened to be in somewhat proximity. And I've been to the hall many times, but I was kind of specifically looking for certain information, and it was a reminder that football began here. From there was teams in Akron. Some of the first professional teams was Canton and Madison. We know about that rivalry. We talked this morning about a new running back coming to the Akron Hoban, who's definitely on the national map with the success they have there. So, I think ultimately, given what's Cleveland sports, is a little bit sickening. It's like a plague, but we still have a lot of sports to look forward to this fall. It's going to be a great high school football season.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? We're looking forward to the Ohio State Buckeyes
Yeah.
are the creme of the creme. Anybody watching this show naturally, um, and so we had that pigskin, right? We still got our football, and
Which is always the bread and butter in Ohio. Like, as much as we've put energy in this LeBron thing the last month, I've actually already been thinking. I kind of, be honest, the last week, even though I was told Monday was coming out this week, you and I were talking more about football recently. Like, I'm already looking ahead. We just went to Paris Campbell's camp. We just, we're obviously got
man,
stuff maybe we'll be doing next week with Coach Stump. Stay tuned for that with Roe and go check out they got some stuff coming next week. You guys don't want to miss. But
yes, sir.
that's gonna be fire. But yeah, I mean, I've already been looking ahead. I mean, and I see the news this morning. High school. High
We
school
got we
alone
got we
takes
got
more of my
Bowling
energy than
Green.
anything.
We got the great Eddie George. I got a poster in here somewhere. Eddie George at Bowling Green. There's some you know, local schools here, and then we know a lot of kids from the area that's playing at different colleges, and we're following them from Ohio State to
We got
Pitt
some kids
to
that make
Penn
some big
State.
decisions here soon.
Right. We got the kid from Madonna who's with the Steelers. Uh,
Yeah,
um, the
Drew Aller.
QB. So Drew Aller. So we're not going to lack and our Friday nights are almost like another NFL season for us.
Oh
You
yeah, I
know.
mean, this is probably the last day I'll be talking about basketball for a while. I mean,
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
I covered it obviously because it's a big story, LeBron, Cavs, the whole thing. But to me, I'm relieved this is over because I'm going to move on to football now, take a little break, and transition to football because that's obviously what I'm known for in the show is covering the
Right.
Browns in high school. Now I'm doing that, and you and I are more known for football in high school from people that come up to us all the time and ask us about, hey, who's going where, what's going on, what's the scoop here, the whole
Right.
thing. But uh, yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's over because I like that's what Ohio's that's what our bread. It's like you said, it's the pigskin. It's the Browns, the Buckeyes, high school, whatever high school team you're repping or just being around. It's fun. I mean, there's so much. If you don't go to a high school football game on Friday nights, you're selling yourself short. There's a
Tell me
lot
about
of you can go out there on a Friday night and go to your old alma mater, go back there and just. I
You're gonna
mean,
see some good
there's
football.
nothing
You're gonna see
better.
some talent. Nothing better. You
Nothing
know
better than
what?
being out there on a Friday night. There's just nothing like it.
I'll say what a lot of people, at least in our position, want to say. This LeBron thing's been a pain in the ass. You
Oh,
know what I mean? He held up. I ain't gonna say he, but they,
the whole
whatever
league was
pronoun,
held up.
it held the league scheduling up, and it's like, every day we're checking, and obviously we're in the content based profession, but
Hmm.
it was a pain in the ass, and it was almost like watching a spoiled kid have a whole bag of candy, and he won't give nobody else a piece of candy, right?
Yeah,
And so it just got old. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think it got drugged. Now I will say he made a splash with this. Now he did a swan dive and he did a double backflip.
Came
He
out of
did
left
not
field
come
all right.
clean, but it was drawn out. It was it's like, dude, come on,
Yeah.
So um, here we are,
Well, it's
Philadelphia.
crazy too. If you go on ESPN and this tells it all right here. Because obviously they were going crazy about the LeBron decision because they had to react to it live. But I mean, shortly after they put out a video, I think it was ESPN Cleveland or somebody did. Was it this one? I mean, one second, I'm looking at my screen. Yeah. This just shows you what it's like here in Ohio, what we're kind of getting at. Like, so you go on their X page, ESPN Cleveland.
Hmm.
Everybody's reacting to this cat, LeBron, he's not coming. There's instant reactions. And then it just goes right to this. In other news, the Browns are back on the field. That's all they
There you
care
go.
about today. The Browns are. Everybody's reporting the training
I'll
camp,
see,
and
and that's important news, by the way.
that's big news. I mean, obviously, we're going to get equal content, if not more, out of that with the quarterback battle coming up here
Tell me
um,
about it.
than this for the last month. But
Yeah, listen, yeah, the Cavaliers are definitely going to be not a hot topic now. It's like, how do we get pumped up for the Cavs this season, Joseph? Now, I mean, what is there to really be excited about? You know, we're going to have a Go K team, and we like Spider Mitchell. Is that what we want to say? I like Spider Mitchell. And then what we going to say, right?
yeah,
You
I
know,
don't know. I mean, we'll see what moves they make, but they better make some moves. I tell you that they better. If they just run it back with this team and that coach and just say, "Hey, we
I
tried,"
don't know.
and
Listen, Brandon Weems, he got his work cut out, but there ain't really nothing out there. You
I
know,
think
not
Brandon
really.
Weems is just sitting there next to the guy that's making. He's just there. He's
Yeah.
just, it's just hey, is the computer on? Yeah, like you know what I mean.
You know what? I'm
Like
curious. I wish I could been a fly on the wall and been next to him or some of his circle at what point did they get the info? Like did Brandon Weems notice week ago? Did he know a month
I think
ago?
they
Did he find out?
probably from I had conversations with people. I think they probably had an idea. I think they had an idea which way he was thinking. I mean, Shion Cotton's been traveling with him, so he probably had somewhat of an idea. But he may not have told anybody directly. He definitely kept this very close to the vest and what he was thinking day to day. But I mean, I think he made it known he's going to let it out this week. That was for sure. He let people know behind the scenes that this is the week I'm putting it
Well,
out. Just
the local basketball guy who put the statement out, we ain't gonna say his name because but he
yeah,
may have,
yeah. That's I'm glad I didn't put that on the show because shout out
yeah,
to him. But he came out like it was a done deal, and everybody was like,
yeah, he
oh,
did.
and I know he has ties to LeBron, and they're good friends. But we'll leave it at
I
that.
think
But
LeBron might have called him and told him to run with that because that whole Miami thing was,
the Miami
it was
thing was all fugazi, to my opinion, all along. But the
yeah,
Cavs, I always thought it was Cavs or Warriors because I just didn't see him living anywhere other than Ohio or California because it's home or he likes Cali. But he
yeah.
definitely he definitely did a hell of a job playing this out and setting it up for a big stunner.
He listen. He concealed it. He kept the secret, didn't he?
Now, some fans aren't happy. Shout out to Yemi too. It says, "I can't believe this is happening after 40 years of Sixers fans. Now I'm a Celtics fan until that bum leaves." So we got some upset Sixers fans. How about that? Uh,
Hey, takes all kinds.
I guess the Cavs fans in
But
my chat are all saying, "Get rid of Kobe Altman." That's what they're all upset about. Fire everybody. Fire the GM.
yeah, yeah. They need
Um,
that coach, the
yeah.
analytics guy.
Like shout out to Joey, my guy DVIs. He said analytically we actually landed LeBron, Kenny
We
Atkinson
did.
probably.
Here we go.
Shout out to Jeremy. He says I'm happy for LeBron. He made the decision about him and his family where he wants to be now, not who's offering the most money or where do my sponsors want me to go. Where can I go out on a high note and compete? Um, Shout out to
Fact.
Graham Palm says, "What's up, y'all? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in." He said someone needs to investigate LeBron and friends for Kalshi manipulation.
Man, we should. I don't know what the odds were on Cassie for that.
The Heat were up for like a week, and I was like, I don't know why. There's no significant information I saw that was like going to Miami. But shout out to Eddie Mon. He said both us Heat and Cavs fans left in the cold. Yeah, there you go. This is all in that Kobe bum Altman.
Hey, I think we took a word of the day for today. Remember Sesame Street? Today's word is bum.
Bum.
Yeah,
That's the word for the day. Bum.
BUM, bum.
Bum. Shout out to Jermaine Pratt. He said I think LeBron had signed with Philadelphia from a couple days ago. He was just waiting to announce it. People around the Sixers was saying this Friday, like Tuesday, that he had signed a 2-year deal. Yeah, that might be true because I was told Monday from somebody that he was going to announce it in the coming days, his decision. They didn't say who, they just said it was coming. So maybe I bet you it probably was wrapped up earlier the week, and they just, obviously that video they made was put together in the last few days at least. So without a doubt, this is probably something he's been eyeing, to say the least. He was in the area last week, so fire Kobe Altman and promote Brandon Weems. LeBron is 42 now. If this was 2014, I'd be more worried about LeBron going to Philly. But since he's that old, I'm not too worried about it, says Jeffrey. Um, let's see.
Good point.
He says, Rose, stop it right now. Philly may make the playoffs, but not a championship.
Hey, right now they're coming out the East.
Yeah, I don't know what other team in the East right now could.
Hey, Jalen Brown, like you said, Jalen Brown is a stud. He's a stud of
He's a
studs.
stud, and he's won.
Yeah, so
He's come off his best single season of his career too. So
Edgecombe is a dog. I mean,
yeah.
they have a team.
Um, he said, yes, Jordan's the GOAT by far. He didn't have to jump from team to team to win. He said fans would rather watch the Guardians than the Cavs for real. Probably right now, yeah. I would say so. I mean, I think they're above 500, so
Maybe they might make a run coming down the stretch
you
too.
never know. Maybe this is the year they can finally pull off a miracle. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Obviously it was a little longer live than we were hoping, but it was a lot to talk about. So there you have it. It is finally over. LeBron is taking his talents to Philadelphia. Not that. Where is it? Right there. He's taking his talents to Philly. As LeBron announces, he's going to be signing with Philly on a 2-year, $8 million deal, and this will be his last 2 years of his career. And this is it. So there you have it. We'll see what the Cavs do. Maybe they go get Kuminga or Trey Murphy or Herb Jones or somebody. Yeah, there you have it. He's already got down the blue jacket right there. So he's already got his Philly colors.
Hey, it was a sign. I got this from uh, House 330 when I was at the right place at the right time. Thank you to his mom. So yeah, hey, you know what? I'm going to get a 23 jersey.
Are you gonna get this one right here? The
I'm
that
getting the
one?
23. I'm getting the black 23 jersey. I need a
Okay.
2X. I'm going to go find that.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on today, brother. You want to obviously we've done collab. I've been on your show. We've done collabs. We'll do a lot of work. Obviously, come up here for football season and all that with high school and the Browns with Stump and everything. Shout out to Coach Stump. But where can they find you? And what do you guys got planned coming up here?
Follow us at Stump Talk Podcast on Facebook, Instagram. You can also go to the Hall of Fame Network. We have all our shows. Shout out to our guy, Russell Johnson, Coach Stump Mitchell. We're working on some new programming this fall. Obviously, I'm out here in a rival area. I'm not going to shout them out right now, but um, again, we're looking forward to the high school football season. We're going to be launching a new podcast for that. Something that just got done, closed yesterday. Um, hello to Northeastern Ohio. Good luck, LeBron, and go Tribe.
Yeah, and keep an eye for Coach Stump next week. I'll just tell you that. I'll just leave. We'll just leave
Yeah,
with that.
got something big coming.
Something big
That'll
coming
be
next
awesome.
week.
Yeah, that's gonna be
So
big.
looking
Yep.
forward to it. But all right. Well, I appreciate you, brother. I'm sure I'll talk to you here again soon. So
Yes, sir.
appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Shout out to Roe, my guy. Give him a round of applause. Where's my button at? There it is. Appreciate for coming on as long as he did. Obviously, this is a big live covering Ragnar LeBron, so we had to talk about a lot, and we just sit up here and like to. That's how we talk on the phone all the time. Is we just sit and just go from topic to topic and just kind of ramble. So, but you'll see more content from us. And shout out to him. Go over again, Stump Talk Podcast. Season's right around the corner. Go hear from a former Browns coach himself, running back coach, high level NFL guy, played in the league, coached a lot of great players in the league. He's a high level coach. You'll hear a lot. You'll learn a lot about the game there and a lot of knowledge. So go over and check them out. Obviously, I've been on the show before, so we've had Stump on the show. But go over and check them out and subscribe to them and go to check out Roe on Facebook and Instagram as well. He covers all things high school football, Browns football. So you like that kind of content, go check him out and follow. And yeah, so there you guys have it. We'll see what I do next on this show. Obviously, this has been a long process covering this LeBron thing. I'm looking forward to moving on to football now, taking a little bit of break. Obviously, I'll still cover the Cavs and all that. We'll see what moves they make. But for now, I'll see you on the next one, whatever that may be. And please like, subscribe, share all the good stuff. And also stay tuned for the professional fan. Mike will be back on this show with his show, covering all things Browns. His training camp is around the corner, and it's go time for football season. So we will see you on the next one. Like, subscribe, share all the good stuff. We're up out of here.